Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. What started as another tense moment on the Cobbles suddenly turned into one of the most devastating tragedies Coronation Street has delivered in years. And by the end of it, Weatherfield would lose one of its brightest young souls. A violent confrontation spirals out of control when Megan brutally attacks young Sam Blakeman, leaving him critically injured. Despite desperate efforts by doctors at the hospital, Sam tragically dies from his injuries, sending shockwaves of grief, anger, and heartbreak across the entire Weatherfield community. In the emotional world of Coronation Street, the residents of Weatherfield have faced their fair share of turmoil over the years. From family disputes to shocking betrayals, the Cobbles have seen just about everything. But sometimes, a storyline hits with such emotional force that it leaves both the characters and viewers reeling. And that's exactly what happens in this devastating chapter involving Sam Blakeman. The tragedy begins quietly with a growing sense of tension surrounding Megan. Over time, her behavior has become increasingly unstable, and people around Weatherfield have started noticing the warning signs. Conversations become more heated, tempers flare more easily, and there is an uncomfortable feeling that something is about to snap. At first, it appears to be just another argument, something the residents of Weatherfield are unfortunately used to seeing from time to time. But beneath the surface, emotions are boiling over, and the situation is far more dangerous than anyone realizes. Then everything explodes. What begins as shouting and confrontation suddenly turns violent in a horrifying instant. Megan lashes out in a moment of uncontrolled anger, and the person caught in the middle of the rage is Sam Blakeman. Sam, known throughout Weatherfield as a thoughtful, intelligent, and gentle boy, becomes the tragic victim of the attack. For those who know him, Sam represents the innocence and warmth that make the street feel like a community. He's the kid who asks deep questions, who surprises adults with his wisdom, and who approaches the world with curiosity and kindness. But in this terrifying moment, that bright young life is placed in unimaginable danger. The attack unfolds in chaos, voices rise, people shout in shock, and suddenly Sam collapses. The reality of what has just happened crashes down on everyone present like a bolt of lightning. Panic immediately takes hold. Those nearby rush towards Sam, desperately trying to help him as they realize the severity of his injuries. Someone calls for emergency services while others try to keep him awake and responsive. The atmosphere on the normally familiar Cobbles transforms instantly from everyday life into a scene of pure terror. Within months, sirens echo through the streets of Weatherfield. Paramedics arrive quickly, pushing through the crowd as they assess Sam's condition. The urgency is clear from the moment they begin their work. Sam is critically injured, and every second counts as the paramedics carefully lift him onto a stretcher and rush him into the ambulance. The people standing nearby are left frozen in shock. The doors slam shut, and the vehicle speeds off toward the hospital with its lights flashing and sirens blaring into the night. Back on the street, a heavy silence falls. Neighbors gather in small groups, whispering in disbelief. Everyone is trying to process what just happened. How could a heated argument escalate into something so catastrophic? How could a moment of rage leave a young boy fighting for his life? Meanwhile, inside the ambulance, paramedics are working frantically to stabilize Sam during the journey to the hospital. Every mile feels like a race against time. When they finally arrived at the emergency department, the situation becomes even more intense. Doctors and nurses immediately rush Sam into treatment, quickly realizing just how serious his injuries are. Inside the hospital, medical staff move rapidly, performing urgent procedures while machines beep steadily around them. Specialists are called in, consultations happen quickly, and the atmosphere becomes one of controlled chaos. Every member of the medical team understands the gravity of the situation. They're fighting to save the life of a young boy who should have his whole future ahead of him. Outside the treatment room, Sam's family and loved ones wait in agonizing uncertainty. The hospital corridor becomes filled with worried faces, whispered prayers, and quiet tears. Each passing minute feels impossibly long as they cling to the hope that Sam will pull through. But as the hours pass, that hope begins to fade. Doctors attempt everything they can, performing procedure after procedure in a desperate effort to keep Sam alive. Yet the injuries from the attack prove far more severe than anyone had initially believed. Eventually, the moment no one wants arrives. The medical team gathers and delivers the heartbreaking news. Sam Blakeman has died from his injuries. For a moment, the world hangs in the air as if time itself has stopped. Then the reality hits with crushing force. Sam's family collapses into grief, overwhelmed by the unimaginable loss. The bright, thoughtful boy who brought so much warmth to Weatherfield is gone. As the news spreads throughout the community, the shock quickly turns into widespread mourning. Residents struggle to comprehend how such a tragedy could happen in their close-knit neighborhood. Sam was not just another kid on the street, he was someone who stood out because of the story of his intelligence and curiosity. People often speak about how he would ask philosophical questions far beyond his years, leaving adults amazed by his thoughtful perspective on the world. He brought light to the community, and now the light has been extinguished. Soon, flowers begin appearing around the street. Small memorials grow larger each day as residents leave messages, candles, and tributes in Sam's memory. The Cobbles become a place of mourning, filled with reminders of how deeply he was loved. But grief is not only emotion spreading across Weatherfield. Anger begins to build as well, as details of the attack become clearer. Megan's role in the tragedy becomes impossible to ignore. Residents who once tried to show understanding toward her behavior are now forced to confront the devastating consequences of that violent moment. Police launch a full investigation into the incident. Witnesses are interviewed, evidence is collected, and authorities begin piecing together exactly what happened during the attack. The legal process moves forward, but for many residents, it doesn't feel fast enough. People want justice for Sam. The tragedy also sparks painful reflection throughout the community. Some characters wonder whether the situation could have been prevented if Megan's troubling behavior had been addressed earlier. Others struggle with guilt, questioning whether they ignored warning signs that might have changed the outcome. Back at the hospital, even the doctors and nurses who treated Sam are visibly shaken. The quiet room where he spent his final moments becomes a heartbreaking symbol of the loss that now hangs over Weatherfield. As day pass, residents gather together to share memories of Sam. They talk about his kindness, his intelligence, and the gentle way he approached the world. Each story paints a picture of a boy who had an incredible future ahead of him. The funeral scenes that follow are among the most emotional moments the show has delivered in years. Friends, neighbors, and family gather to say goodbye, their grief filling every corner of the church. Tears flow freely as they remember the young life that ended far too soon. The tragedy forces many characters to confront difficult truths about anger, responsibility, and the ripple effects of violence. Megan's attack lasted only seconds, but the consequences of that moment will linger in Weatherfield for years. Sam's death becomes a turning point. Relationship change, perspective shift, and many residents vow to ensure that Sam's memory is never forgotten. Even as the Cobbles grow quieter without his presence, the community remains united in honoring the bright young boy who once walked those streets filled with curiosity and hope. The storyline delivers one of the most powerful emotional arcs in recent Coronation Street history. The loss of Sam Blakeman doesn't just affect his immediate family, it ripples through the entire community. The show explores how a single moment of violence can fracture lives, spark anger, and leave lasting scars that may never fully heal. It also raises difficult questions about responsibility and warning signs. Could the tragedy have been prevented? Did people overlook Megan's instability until it was too late? These questions add layers of complexity to the storyline, making it far more than just a shocking plot twist. Most importantly, the storyline highlights how communities respond to grief. Weatherfield's residents come together in mourning, supporting one another through one of the darkest chapters they have ever faced. Honestly, the storyline is heartbreaking but incredibly powerful. Sam Blakeman was one of the most lovable young characters on the show, and seeing his history end this way is devastating. But at the same time, the writers handled it with emotional depth that really shows how tragedy affects everyone, not just the immediate victims. What stands out the most is how the story explores grief from multiple perspectives. It's not just about sadness, it's about anger, guilt, regret, and the struggle to move forward after something unimaginable happens. And in a way, it reminds viewers how fragile life can be and how quickly a single moment can change everything. Conclusions. So now the big question is how Weatherfield is moved forward after losing Sam Blakeman. Will the community ever truly recover from this tragedy? And when Megan faces justice, will it bring any sense of closure to those who love Sam? I would really like to hear your thoughts. Did this storyline hit you as hard as it did for so many fans? And do you think the warning signs leading up to this tragedy should have been taken more seriously? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you enjoyed deep dives into emotional storylines like this one, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown. Because in Weatherfield, the drama never truly stops, and the next chapter could be just as shocking.